Greetings, Andy here again, and it's another thread. So this is 25 favourite albums from the first 25 years of the 21st century. Bit of a mouthful there, but it's a bit obvious. Now, I confess, I don't know where this one started. I saw Vinyl Richie do one and was quite. I loved his list, and I've got quite a few of them. Mostly on CD or vinyl, to be honest. Sorry, CD or digital. But I was inspired to give it a go. So I've sort of set myself some rules here. I'm only showing records that I have on vinyl. And that does mean that some of my favourites from this period I'm not showing because I only have them on CD or as a digital download. And I'm also only showing sort of artists who are predominantly from this century. So yes, if they had their first album or two in the 90s, late 90s, then but have continued right through, I'm showing them. But I'm not picking sort of, you know, artists from the 70s or 80s or maybe even early 90s, you know, who have had the odd record in this century. So this is music of this century, essentially. They're not all absolutely my favourite albums. So what I'm trying to do is actually represent my favourite artists and bands from there. I'm also trying to show albums which I generally haven't done before or often. In some cases, that's not possible. I've just got to include an album, which I've talked about lots of times, but I'll whiz through. Anyway, let's get cracking. The only order here is chronological. So I'm starting in the year 2000 and with a post-rock album because, you know, this century to me has been as much about post-rock as anything else, any other genre. It is, of course, the Canadian collective from Montreal, Godspeed, You Black Emperor, and their second album, Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antenna to Heaven. And we start the century in sheer bonkersness. I have talked about this album quite a bit, and it is you know, it's a double album. It's great post rock in an entirely Godspeed bonkers way. So I suppose one of the other things I ought to say is I'm also trying to sort of get a good mix of genres. I don't cover every genre I like on here. But I've tried to sort of include at least one sample of most of them. And here's some electronic and sort of jazz as well to an extent. And it's Sanjiman, the French electronic. Well, essentially, it's a guy called Ludovic Navarre and Tourist, and it kicks off with the magnificent Rose Rouge. So this is electronica. It's very jazzy. You know, and you know, whilst I had this when it first came out on CD, it's a much later reissue, the vinyl, but it's a fabulous album. And somebody who has been ever present through this period is Jack White, to be honest. And you know, I nearly always talk about Elephant, which is probably my favourite album. There's lots of stuff I could do, but I've decided to go with one of their I don't know, this is not their first, I think this is their second album. I don't know, it's very early, and this is now in 2001, and of course it's the White Stripes and White Blood Cells, and you know, Hotel Yorba. It's just a great album if you like that sort of garage rock, you know, and it's kicking the new century off with some really good guitar. Now we come to my fourth one, and we're still in 2001, and with no apologies, I have to show this one because it is one of my favourite albums ever, and it's a sort of, it's not exactly a one-off, but it's not far off it, and that is Gotam Project and La Revancha del Tango. I have, as I say, talked about this one a lot. The Gotam Project, if you don't know them, are they're made up of a sort of a DJ duo, a French guy and a Swiss guy, who got together with an Argentina sort of leader of a Buenos Aires street band, essentially. And, you know, La Revancha del Tango means the revenge of the tango. And it's tango, it's real Latin, but fabulous. I mean, you just want to dance to this. It is superb. You know, kicking off with Queremos Paz, beautiful, and the magnificent Santa Maria del Buen Air. Absolutely superb album. Still, no, we're in 2002 now, and more electronica, and it's the Cinematic Orchestra and that album Every Day, which is a magnificent album, and it's got a great sort of track. I mean, there's vocals, but they're all guest vocalists. So, for example, on side C, it's a double. All Things to All Men has a Roots Maneuver doing if I call it rap, it's a very British rap. It's not grime or anything like that. It's more spoken word than rap. It's brilliant. Kicks off on with the magnificent All That You Give, which features Fontella bass on vocals, and ends on the title track Every Day. Superb album. Now, we're into 2003 now, and here's an example, which it is one of my favourite albums of this band, but not the favourite. And the problem I've got is I'm very limited in vinyl records from this band. It is Elbow and Cast of Thousands, which is their second LP. And you know, I love this album. It's in my sort of top 3 or 4 of their albums. But I'm picking this as a favourite. Representative of a favourite band. You know, their first album, Sleep in the Back, couldn't think what it was called then, is superb, but I don't have it on vinyl. I've never seen it. I've not really gone hunting, but I've never sort of bumped into it. And the same for some of their middle period where they really peaked, Won the Mercuries, only on CD. So this has some great ones. Fallen Angel, Fugitive Motel is absolutely superb. Grace Under Pressure, one of the great staple of their festival slots. Superb album by Elbow. And still in 2003, we're Singing for Absolution, and this is Muse. I don't think I've ever shown this Muse one. Usually I show Origin of Symmetry as their sort of primary one, but I like this album sort of equally. It's a bit bonkers. I mean, at the end of the day, Muse are really prog. I mean, they're a sort of, you know, they're a trio. They're a power trio. But they're very proggy in a guitar-y type of way. And this is, you know, Stockholm Syndrome, Apocalypse Now, and as I say, the magnificent Sing for Absolution. It just gets me going every time. Bonkers and heavy and brilliant. Now, we're jumping to 2005 now, and back to some post-rock, and it's Siger Rós and their album Tack. So this is what I've talked about this before, but it's not necessarily my favourite of their albums, but it's certainly in my sort of top 3 of their ones. And it's beautifully packaged. It's a double. It's very thick, as you can see, and it comes in this sort of book outline. It's got some of their it's got a whole thing in the middle. It's got some of their greatest hits in there, like Glossoli, Hippopola, which was a single. Just a beautiful post-rock album. They're starting on here. They're not as out-and-out post-rock as their original stuff, but they're still very, you know, it's 80% post-rock, but they're gradually starting to move away. So we move forward now to another year, to 2006, and this is really, it is a band I'm really fond of, and certainly will be in, you know, my top 25 bands. But this is my folky representation, and it's Midlake, who hail from Texas, though don't sound like it. And what I think is their best album, The Trials of Van Occupantha. So it's folk rock, but it's quite beautiful. It's quite gentle. Just an all-round good album, and you know, one of the best of this genre. So, even though Muse was, you could argue Muse was on the proggy side, now we're moving pure prog to Porcupine Tree, and possibly their finest album, and it's 2007 now, and this is Fear of a Blank Planet. I have shown this before. It's, you know, it is probably their masterpiece, though there's a handful of their records which are just so close. And it's got the magnificent title track. It's got the epic Anaesthetize, which lasts for nearly 18 minutes on here. You know, all the tracks are long. There's a couple of sort of 5-minute ones. Most of them are 7. And then you've got the that really long one. And of course, it's Steven Wilson. The other thing I ought to say is I'm trying to make sure that I don't duplicate from you know, between bands. So I'm cheating a little bit here, as will become apparent later, but this is the band Porcupine Tree. And moving on, and now my representation for sort of dream pop, shoegaze, and so on. And it is, we're jumping to 2010 now, by the way, and this is Beach House and Teen Dream, which is my favourite album there. I've got quite a few of them. You know, it starts with that magnificent zebra, the black and white horses. It's just a lovely, I think, well, it's a duo, I think, from Baltimore. That neck of the woods, I'm sure. You know, beautiful dream pop at its best. The gentle side of shoegaze at its best. Superb. And back to some sort of electronica and French DJ, and I've forgotten the guy's name now. Anyway, M83 and Hurry Up We're Dreaming, a double album, absolutely superb. This was 2011. This was my album of the year in 2011, he's Gonzalez, that's it. The surname's Gonzalez. I've forgotten his first name. He comes from the Antibes in the south of France, but I think he's been based in New York for 20 odd years now. So superb album. So, and we jump forward to 2014, this is we're sort of halfway through now. This is the number 13 of the list, and it's Mogwai, and their 6th or 7th album, I think, Rave Tapes. It's one of my favourites of theirs, not necessarily the favourite. I mean, my favourite of theirs came out in the late 90s. So, but this is a great one. I remember this really well because when this came out very early, I think it was February or something like that in 2014, I was working in Zurich in Switzerland, sort of commute, you know, flying out on a Monday, flying back on a Friday. I can remember, you know, obviously I bought this on CD and ripped it and had it on my phone. But I can remember listening to this on the sort of tram going in from the hotel to the office I was working in at the time. I played it endlessly. It's absolutely fabulous. You know, Simon Ferocious, Remurdered is a classic one, Hex and Bogon. It's just a really all-round good Mogwai album. Enough said. So here's my slight cheat of duplicate. It's not a true duplicate, but it is Steven Wilson, and this one is where are we up to? 2015 now, and it's Hand Cannot Erase. So this is sort of, you know, I mean, I don't think he's had a doff one. There's some slightly better than others, but this is certainly in my top 3 of theirs, but I've never talked about it before, I don't think so. So that's why I pulled this one out. It's a great album. It includes the fabulous track Home Invasion, and I know this is a lot of people's favourite of Wilson, so it is an excellent album, and it's in that sort of period where Porcupine Tree were essentially in long-term hiatus, and he was doing all his work as solo. So a brilliant album. And another brilliant album, a 2016 now, and it is, I wouldn't say the last, but who knows, the most recent Radiohead album, and one of their best, The Moon-Shaped Pool. So this is one of my favourite of their albums. You know, it's been out long enough, as have all their others, to really have taken stock and you know, thought. So this is probably my sort of probably third most favourite out of all of their stock. Obviously, that Radiohead are probably the band out of all these that have been going the longest. But you know, but they started in the sort of early mid-90s and obviously have carried right through. And even to this day, obviously, Tom York and Johnny Greenwood have been playing with the Smile since then and produced several albums. And who knows whether, you know, rumour has it that Radiohead are going to do another album soon, but, you know, we'll wait and see. And I often talk about the band Low, and you know, one of my favourite bands of you know, since the early days, and I don't think I've really talked about this album, and it's one of their more recent ones, though it's 2018, and it is Double Negative. When this came out, I was absolutely gobsmacked because it's a real move on from their earlier stuff. It features a lot of distortion, guitar distortion, heavy distortion, you know, but mixed, juxtaposed with Mimi Parker's lovely vocals. But when I first listened to it, I had to go and check that it was the Low that, you know, from Duluth in Minnesota that I knew about. And it is just a brilliant album, really challenging. So traditional Low fans really struggled with this because it is so in your face with the heavy guitar distortion, but a superb album. And so now we come to my psych rock entry for this 25 favourites. You know, I could have put lots in there, but I'm going with Wooden Ships. And again, this is V or 5, and it's their 5th album, so I suspect it's meant to be 5. This also came out in 2018. It's probably their most accessible as well. So Wooden Ships hail from San Francisco. It's Ripley Johnson band on guitar. And in terms of representation, the Ripley is also in the band with his wife called Moon Duo, who produced even more albums than this. And I've got pretty well all of them in one form or another. So, this is a fabulous one. It ends on a track called Ride On, which is brilliant. And so we move on to 2020. So we're in the current decade now, and this is the band Doves. Now, I would have put one of their earlier works in, but I don't have them on vinyl. So this came, came out in 2020. It's a superb album, but I only have the earlier albums on CD. And it kicks off with Carousels, which is absolutely superb. Cathedrals of Your Mind in there, and the title track Universal One. It's a superb album. Doves is one of my favourite bands of this century, so I had to make sure I had one in there. And now this is, I could have chosen sort of several options here, but this is my jazz, because jazz, particularly sort of British jazz, has been a real thing of particularly the last 10 years. And this is Sons of Kemet, and their album Black to the Future, which came out in 2021. And it's a superb a modern jazz album. And it's got the classic Shabaka Hutchins and Theon Cross on tuba, so the bass line is with a tuba, and Tom Skinner on drums. And basically they've disbanded, hiatus or disbanded, I'm not quite sure, because Shabaka's been off doing lots of stuff. He's a magnificent saxophonist. and Tom Skinner has been playing in the Smile with Johnny Greenwood and Tom York. So, but this is a lovely album. It's a double, and it's just good modern jazz. And so we move. Oh, we're still in 2021, and now we're in very modern prog, I would call it, and that is Blackmidi and the album Cavalcade. It's difficult to work out where you are on this because it's all sort of printed and different. Every time you open something up, the print is a different way up. So, but I think this was their second album, but it's my favourite of theirs. And it kicks on with the magnificent John L, which is actually John 50, followed by Marlene Dietrich. They're led by one Geordie Grebe, who's the singer, a very distinctive vocal style. They are also on long-term hiatus because basically Geordie decided he didn't have enough control, I must be a control freak, and has gone off to start doing solo stuff. So it'd be nice if they got back together because I think they're better as a band. Superb album if you want to be challenged. Now this was an unusual. I ummed and ahed about this because is it one of my 25 favourite albums of the 21st century? No, but it's way up there. And is it one of my 25 favourite bands? No, but it's way up there. But it's an album I really like, and it's a throwback album, but it's entirely different from the others. So this is the only album I've got in here which is anything like this, and it is Greta Van Fleet. And the Battle at Garden Gate. So, you know, they have been criticised, slagged off even for being nothing more than Led Zeppelin copyists. But I don't think they are. I think they plough their own funnel, but they've definitely got that sort of Zeppelin feel, that sort of, you know, Zeppelin aren't really, they're not a heavy metal band. They cover folk, they cover prog. And I think Greta Van Fleet, that's where the similarity is, because they swing through genres and you know, definitely quite proggy in there, but it's heavy guitar stuff, brilliantly played. There's I think it's I think there's three brothers in it, two of whom are twins, and they hail from Michigan. And, you know, beautiful record, fabulous. It's one I can listen to any time. It's got some great guitar work, some heavy solos on there, just fabulous. So still in 2021, and this is a band I've talked about a lot, and this is my favourite album of theirs, and it is Public Service Broadcasting and Bright Magic, fourth or fifth, can't remember. This album is it's really all about a celebration of the city of Berlin, both in its own right as a city, but also in particular as a cultural centre and its place in music innovation. And it's also a sort of step on from their earlier stuff. So this doesn't so much feature, you know, public service radio broadcasting, that's the earlier albums do, but you've got much more in here, like field recordings, spoken word narrations, a lot of it in German, and the last track on there I just find mesmerizing, and it's called Ich und die Stadt, which I presume means I don't know which way you put it, me and the city, or the city and I, I'm not sure. And it features a narration in German by somebody called Nina Hoss, who I don't know, but it's just, as I say, it's mesmerising. It's a fabulous album, very different from all their other ones, but brilliant. So, and we move forward again to 2022, so getting pretty up to date now, and this is the number 23, and it is the Irish band Fontaines DC and their album Skinty Fear, this is my favourite album of theirs. It's their third album, I think, and it's got sort of some great tracks. The opener is called In Our something or other, which is obviously Gaelic, but Jackie Down the Line was a good It was a single, couple across the way. It's really interesting. Just a fabulous album, and the band really, each album they do, they sort of progress a little bit further, but this is my favourite of theirs. Penultimate, still in 2022, and it is Black Country New Road and Ants From Up Here, which is signed by the band. I have talked about this a few times. It's got some great tracks on there: Chaos Space Marine, Concord, Goodwill Hunting, Howden, they're just Snow Globes. The whole album is brilliant. Very sad though that Isaac, I was going to say Isaac Walton, but that's somebody different. Isaac Wood, who presumably is IW there, left. He found the whole lot too much and claiming mental health issues. He left the band literally on the eve of the release of this album, which is a shame. I mean, they've moved on and they're still going well with their mostly their girl members doing the singing on their last album. But I think they peaked here. They've got a way to go before they get back to this superb album. And so we come to my final one, and it was released in 2023. And people, those who know me really well, might be thinking, yeah, but where's the Flaming Lips gone? Possibly my favourite band ever. And you know, surely Yoshimi's got to be in there. But I've talked about it so many times. Anyway, here it is in a live form. So I saw them in, when they released Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. Obviously they toured it, and it was released in 2002, but the sort of the British leg of their tour was 2003, early 2003, and I saw them in Birmingham at the Academy, which is sort of relatively small venue. Then first concert I went to with Marion, who became my wife, so it was an important one. First time I saw the Flaming Lips, and this was recorded on that tour, not there. So this was a bit earlier, a week or two earlier, in the Forum in London in January 2003. But it was finally released as part of a sort of 20-year celebration of it in 2023, and it's a magnificent live album. So there you go. That's my list of 25 favourites. Not my most favourite. And as I say, I've got some classic records, which, you know, people might say no Strokes, no, you know, there's loads. I don't have them on vinyl. You know, I've still got them on CD. I like them. I've just never got them on vinyl. So, and I wanted to stick to this and make sure that I didn't just repeat the same old all the time, and show some reasonable variety. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. Cheers.